Welcome everybody to the State of Gaming on Ethereum. We have an awesome lineup for what is sure to be a very quick 30-minute panel on a super timely topic. We didn't know that we were going to be in this state when we pulled this together, and I think everybody will agree it's a phenomenal time to be talking about super high growth area. We have three guests today from three established arenas, communities. I would love it if you could all take a moment to introduce yourselves, 90 seconds or less. I'll kick it off by saying I'm Cecily Mack. I work with ConsenSys, where I've been coming up on 2 years, and I've been working in disruptive tech and media, publishing, music, and now blockchain since I feel like I was a kid. Welcome. I'll pass it to you, Ben, and then if we could go to Peter and Jeff.
Thanks, Cecily. Hey everyone, I'm Ben. I'm the CTO for Blocki Games. We are known for making a game called Neon District. We've been formed about 2.5 years ago. We are a highly experimental company in that we love to build technology alongside all of our games. We started with a collection of puzzles called the Pineapple Arcade that launched about 2 years ago. Then we launched Plasma Bears, which was one of the first free-to-play, play-to-earn games available for blockchain gaming, and we are currently working on Neon District. Oh, and we are also about to launch a new game called MetaBoss in about 2 weeks.
Excellent. Peter.
Hey, everyone. My name is Peter Kieltyka, and I'm the CEO and Chief Architect at Horizon Blockchain Games. And, similar to Ben and Blockade, we've been kind of at this very experimental and artistic journey for the last 2.5 years. We really wanted to, take virtual items in games and have them be open and available on a kind of a successor, digital asset platform like the blockchain. That was kind of our thing. And as we all kind of, I think, tapped into that insight. And the first game we started on is a game called Skyweaver, which is a multiplayer competitive trading card game where we have 500 unique cards and you can own them and trade them and battle with each other and have some cool mechanics in that. And then, similarly to Ben, as we all kind of are building on this thing, which is, it's very new technology. So we've had to build a lot of discover a lot of the right technological patterns. And we developed a stack called the Arcadium stack, and where we helped co-author the ERC 1155, which is a very nice token standard for virtual items. And we've, put it up on github.com/Arcadium. And we're really encouraged and excited about, providing a really easy stack for blockchain for people who want to incorporate blockchain into their video games in an open way, and that encourages a non-custodial design. And so really excited about Skyweaver. It's going very well. It's been on Rinkeby, since 2018, December of 2018, and it's we have a really great people are enjoying it, but you got to get it to mainnet and got to make it awesome. And it's so far so good. But we're targeting people who are really. I'll just mention that 80% of our user base, we have 20,000 people in the game and waiting list around just over 140,000. And we're obviously kind of treading lightly to really take our time with it to get it right. But we're certainly not far. Welcome you to join our Discord. I just wanted to mention that what's interesting is that 80% of our user base are people who have never touched blockchain. They're just gamers who want to play the game. And so, Skyweaver cards would be their first type of crypto that they would be interacting with. So thank you for having me.
Awesome. Welcome. Jeff.
Hey, Ethereal. I'm Jeff Zirlin, growth lead at Sky Mavis, the creator of Axie Infinity. Axie is a Pokemon and Tamagotchi-inspired game built on top of Ethereum. We currently have a alpha application out where you can battle, collect, and earn tokens from projects such as MakerDAO, DAI in that case, and Kyber Network. We've generated over $1.5 million in collectible sales and have over 10,000 registered accounts. We're also very interested in bringing the benefits of blockchain to people outside of the kind of traditional crypto space. We've been very excited to see grandmas and children as young as 6 years old interacting with our alpha application.
Super cool. Thank you all. This came up in some of your intros, and among the 10 or so topics I would love to be able to cover in our very quick time is one which has to do specifically with regard to the benefit of some of these trends and products to the actual gamers. And I know when we did a little bit of a pre-sync session on this, Jeff, you had some thoughts. I'd love it if you shared a bit your perspective on this, and then maybe pass it to either Ben or or Peter who have additional considerations. I have a couple hardcore gamers in my house. I'm always thinking about the whole myriad of things that could be beneficial to them, not only today, but with what technology and decentralization and blockchain could provide in the future. Do you mind sharing a little bit about what you see and what's in it for the gamer?
Definitely. I think as blockchain gaming projects, it's definitely very important to focus on the concrete benefits. So recently we've seen a big kind of move towards this term play to earn, where broadly defined players, gamers are able to earn, whether that be non-fungible tokens or ERC-20s, fungible tokens, by simply interacting or playing a game. Projects such as Kyber Network and MakerDAO have expressed an interest to actually subsidize play to earn, for example, within the Axie application, because they're interested in using these games as distribution channels for their tokens to kind of broaden their token distribution. So that's definitely one benefit that seems to really resonate with users, at least in this early stage of the space. Another thing that's perhaps a little bit more abstract is the idea that with a blockchain gamers are they come into this space with digital property rights by default. So our players are able to basically run a digital collectibles business just straight out of their Ethereum wallet. So I was doing some research on the growth of Magic the Gathering, and one thing that I saw was that the game stores were actually acting as evangelists, hosting tournaments, creating content, and that actually that really kind of helped spur the growth of Magic the Gathering. But there are a lot of barriers to entry to being the owner of a game store, right? You need to have a physical location, you need to pay rent. Whereas with Ethereum, right, this idea of everyone being able to kind of have their own mini digital collectibles based business, and the only thing they need is internet and an Ethereum wallet. I think that's a very strong kind of benefit that I think will drive huge network effects over time.
Yeah, awesome. Ben or Peter, chime in on that, your own perspective.
Peter, did you want to chime in first, or do you want me to jump in?
You can go ahead. That's cool.
Okay, cool. So definitely the digital ownership is a huge one. The ability to transfer things anywhere in the world, and anyone can get those assets immediately, being able to sell them. Those are all really powerful things. The thing that I'm most excited about as a developer and a massive nerd is the notion that all of these assets essentially exist on a common API that everyone around the world can use and build on, and it's just available. So, for example, the game that we're putting out in 2 weeks from now, we have no asset that you need to play the game. It's anything that you already own. So you could own like hundreds of Axies, and you can bring them over to the game, and then all of a sudden have a huge pull in the game itself. So there's all of this meta layers that you can pull and play on. We have a lot of artists that are now minting their digital art, which is no longer just static images, but now fully animated, like interactive. And you can go and you can view them like in crypto voxels. You can put them on your wall. So there's so much potential here for taking things that already exist and building on top of them.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Peter, thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's all really cool stuff. And where I want to go with that. I love that the MetaBoss thing sounds really neat. I'm excited to check that out. I think kind of like the neat thing about it, I guess, with blockchain gaming is it kind of changes the economics. It obviously has them they're more open and open ecosystems. And it kind of begins with, I guess, the most basic of things is it introduces secondary markets. Where typically there's only a primary issuer of any good, and by having a secondary market, there's a resale market, so there's more incentive. If I buy it, I can resell it, which is kind of cool. More likely that higher number of people to begin to purchase, to get involved in the purchase of these goods. There's obviously different economy designs that you can incorporate into a video game, such as a play to earn, and play to earn can be done many different ways. We have our own kind of spin on it as well inside Skyweaver, which we're really stoked about. Yeah, and I also agree. I think it's so all that stuff is really interesting, and it kind of definitely players only benefit from it because they have their ownership, and there's this even greater retention. It's also kind of cool if you think about perhaps a huge gaming studio that has multiple sequels of a video game. It can also drive greater retention for them because now you can kind of continue to have utility of those goods even in kind of the new version of the game. So that's why I know big studios are interested in that stuff. Yeah, and I also similarly think it's really interesting about blockchain to kind of create like a common format for virtual goods. Single language, a single representation that can have interoperability and really see all the things that we're introducing, but then how others really build on top. So yeah, those get me really stoked.
Awesome. So it's still a relatively tight market, right? So you have to have skilled gamers, then you also have to have a scale set that is familiar with or excited about, or at least able to use blockchain-powered, Ethereum-powered products. I'd love to talk a little bit about distribution channels and how blockchain games and specifically the products you're building are reaching audiences that you know are going to be engaged and kind of bang on your work and help you improve it over time. And I'll open it up to any of the three of you who want to talk a bit about how you're prioritizing distribution efforts, what you're seeing trend-wise, and anything you want to add on that topic generally with regard to distribution of your games.
I'll say a few words. I think, Jeffrey had a really cool story about the Magic the Gathering arena stores and then being kind of distributors and evangelists. I think there's a lot of evangelists in these different games and communities, so that's pretty cool. Marketplaces are also evangelists, of course, distribution channels and evangelists. And obviously a lot of things happening on the web, and you can kind of leverage all the existing channels that exist as typical in distribution. But I'll agree also the wallets are a very powerful place that facilitate opportunities of commerce and access to information, and the common format should also be able to allow, like back to that example I gave with some video game that has you taking your items to another game, that the subsequent game would be distributed. The prior game is a distribution channel, or the new game is the items are a distribution channel for the content, which is really cool. So the games are now distribution channels for a new set of items. Yeah, that's what I see.
Cool. And
yeah, Jeff,
I'm going to volley it to you. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, man. You were starting to speak up.
I'm just going to add on top of that, actually. So there's a really strong social and networking effect just by the essence that you have all these games that are building assets on top of the same platform. So either you can pull in assets that already exist, and now all of a sudden you have all these people that can benefit immediately, like getting a leg up in the game. But there's also the notion of tradability means that you can bring people in by giving them real things. And that's when we were kids, in order to get people to come in and play Magic the Gathering with us, we didn't have them go out and ask their mom for $30 to go get a pack of cards. We gave them what we already had, and then we could play with them right then and there. We can do the exact same thing now. And the ability to give people things that you have doesn't diminish the work that you put in. You're now bringing in more people. There's a strong social effect now that did not exist, that doesn't really exist in a closed economy.
Yeah. Very cool. Jeff, what about you? What
yeah, definitely. Distribution? So I think first, I think that the most effective distribution channels for blockchain games will be non-obvious. I think, a lot of the ones that have been tried so far, I haven't really seen anything too innovative, but I do think that people will kind of stumble upon through kind of iterative tests, find distribution channels that are kind of unexpected. That said, I do think that, basically this user or player as a stakeholder model really lends itself well to referral or affiliate marketing, right? Because, your users are already very fanatic and care about the product. So it's quite, I think it's a quite logical step to actually turn them into basically recruiters for your game, where, you might have a Binance or Coinbase-like referral system. I also think that any channel that kind of leverages the visual artistic appeal of the game. I also think that blockchain games have to be very visually striking. So I think that channels that kind of play into that basically kind of hook people with the art and get them wanting to learn more. You can then introduce the more complex blockchains and kind of crypto economics to them after they're already engaged and want to learn more, and ideally have kind of also fallen in love with the gameplay a little bit.
Awesome.
Now, I guess it just sparks another idea for me, is the co-creators. There's a lot of co-creation going on. So the other people who are creating within the game, they can also distribute and evangelize. And I agree with Ben. I remember the experience when I gave someone a Skyweaver card in their wallet, and they just got it, and they felt they had this experience of like, oh my God, this is awesome. And they were so stoked about it. So it's a real thing. It definitely pulls someone into that experience as well.
Yeah, it's great to see the type of connection and energy that you can spin up through that, even in this very touchless, digital, tech-driven way. And on that, I want to pick up a thread that you started to touch on a bit, Ben, which I know is a topic that's near and dear to your colleague Marguerite's heart, which is interoperability, and how important interoperability is in what you're building, how you're reaching your community, and ideally, what predictions do you have with regard to these trends or challenges as this whole field continues to evolve?
So I'd not be able to give an answer as eloquently as Marguerite can, but interoperability is at the core of our company, absolutely. It is one of the fundamental benefits of being able to use blockchain is being able to work with other people, work with other companies, work with other properties, and then build new ways to use them. So, for example, it'd be great for a Neon District character to be able to bring in like an Axie, or to bring in a character from Skyweaver, and then to have them as a character that goes along with that character in the game. And this sort of thing just cannot exist unless the companies are owned by a common parent, or there's some sort of really complicated business deal that has to make that happen. Here it's free, it's available. I think we're still playing around with the possibilities of what we can do with that, but it really feels to me like that's going to be one of the cornerstones of what turns blockchain gaming into the actual real metaverse.
So I think on my end, regarding interop, I think I'll be a little bit contrarian. So I think a lot of the games in the space, they're very interested in how they can interop with each other. I think that's awesome, and I think it's going to help us out a lot. But so far, the interop that I've seen that's moved the needle and helped us personally the most at Axie is interop with between gaming and some of these DeFi contracts out there. So, for example, with our land sale that we held in early 2019, we were able to use Kyber Network to kind of seamlessly accept many different tokens. So we accepted like BNB, and actually had CZ tweet about our NFT sale because we were accepting BNB, and accept all these other different ERC20s. Right now, we have a token that you can play by earning our game called the Love Potion, or Small Love Potion, and our players have a liquidity pool for that on Uniswap, and can sell it on Uniswap. So we have around I think around 10 to 20% of our user base interacting with Uniswap on a daily basis. So I think that's been a really kind of interesting example of interop for us, is kind of leveraging these other smart contracts that exist within the Ethereum ecosystem. I'm not just kind of porting our assets into different games. Although I find that also fascinating.
Super cool. So following up on that, maybe Peter, I'll volley to you on this next one. There's been some conversation in the market about certain channels being excessively advantageous or dominated by crypto whales in this space. How can we endeavor to diversify who has access to and who can really engage with and get some of the benefits of gaming on blockchain, particularly when we have notions like mining by gaming and other secondary market benefits that are coming up and are sure to be increasing in scale in coming years. How do we level the playing field?
Are you saying like the concern around like a pay to win where whales can have the best kind of power in a video game or something? Or
yes,
something else?
Or just or just price of access, like being able to come in and level up by having a lot to explicitly invest on your way in.
Yeah, I think it comes down to the game developers, and kind of like each game will have, their own economy design, and some games will choose to have a booster pack or a loot box, and they'll say some percentage of them are super rare, which I think is a very poor design, is very just naive and very like just not a good idea of a design. I think there is in fact, I think when you start peeling into designing blockchain economies, the first thing you kind of eventually realize is you want to have a healthy economy, and you want to do well by the users and the players so that they love your game, they continue to spend time in it. And so there's this interesting kind of almost opposing force of having a good that is scarce and having that same, and like the scarce goods are the ones that are more powerful, because the scarce good, you typically think it's the more valuable one. So then if you have that association, suddenly the whales will buy those ones, there's fewer of them, and the game really effectively turns into a pay to win. And then over time it diminishes all like in kind of in a net value. So I think it comes like, that is actually almost like a paradox in its design, and in saying that these items have value. But in fact, it actually really hurts the game. So you have to, I think, be considerate of how to design for a spectrum of your economy and a spectrum of users, while still making it very fair and balanced. So one way to do it, like we've done in Skyweaver, and I think there's like a lot of options, although I think it is a real challenge, is like looking at the market from, a skins market, So in Skyweaver, we have 500 unique cards, and there's base cards, which are actually like you can get for free that are not tradable. In fact, they're not even on the blockchain. There's silver cards, which are $2 a fixed price. You can also get them on a secondary for less than $2 if, as that would be available. You can always get them for $2 off the primary market. And then there's gold cards, which is actually a market it's like the reward economy. And you can only get a gold card by winning it on the leaderboard. And that has its own kind of, price market. Now a gold, or like if you have a claw bear, that's a base silver or gold, they play the same way, they function differently. Perhaps they give you access to different things depending on how you want to layer them in. Certainly there's a different scarcity kind of grade, and they look different. It's very similar to, I would just kind of leave it off at like Dota, or different MOBAs. They have a very similar, you might have a Juggernaut that's free. Then you have like the one tier up is $50, and then a little bit more of a different, more unique look. It's actually $500 Juggernaut cosmetic skin. So I think that is kind of a good way to think about it. I don't think the money should give you greater power in the game. That is kind of my view on the design. Otherwise, like I said, these opposing forces.
Excellent.
Yeah, we hold the same opinion. So the way that Neon District is designed, for example, is kind of a blend. There are rarities. They do impact the gameplay, but they have a very subtle impact on the gameplay. So in the pay-to-win scheme, you typically have like a ladder, like a typical role-playing game. You have sword that's level 5, and then you have a sword that's level 10. That's clearly better because it can do more attack damage, or it has greater resilience, whatever. And then people climb that ladder until they get to the top. And that's fine as a single-player game. But when you have an entire world that can potentially play your game and trade and interact with each other, the economy breaks down. Because then everyone's going for the race to the top. People with money buy the top. They control everything. It's no longer fun. People can't climb anymore. So instead, what you really want is a progression like what we do is everyone starts off the same base level. And then it's like a tree. It branches out as you grow. So as you level up, you have all these options, all the decisions that you can make. It's very similar to a card game like Skyweaver, where there are checks and balances in place, where one card can be incredibly powerful against something else, but it's not as good compared to the third card, right? Rock, paper, scissors. So building the economy that way means that you can still have your whales play a part They can still collect the rare things, the skins, the incredibly hard to get items, but there's always going to be a metagame where things always change, where there's always an opportunity for someone who comes in with nothing to play their way to the top.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, we're coming up on our time, so I'm going to ask one final question and give you a little bit of room for creativity here. What do you think is the most unexpected thing that's going to happen in this space in the next 24 months, 2 years? What do you think people are going to wish they knew was coming, looking back around this time in 2022? And I'll start with you, Jeff.
So I do think that even given the current growth rate, I think that there are no silver bullets, and I think people in crypto, they're often like, what is the silver bullet for mass adoption? I do think that the space is growing at a very healthy rate, and I think people will kind of be surprised by how that compound growth over the next 24 months kind of shows itself. So I think that when you look at the space kind of on a week-to-week basis or a month-by-month basis, it might not seem like things are moving very quickly, but all of a sudden, I think we're going to see kind of certain, and basically like a chemical reaction or an activation energy accumulate. And I also think that the leveraging kind of different mainstream distribution channels such as app stores or Steam is something that we basically haven't really seen too much. I think that's going to move the needle in a major way.
Great. And you, Peter?
Yeah, I think it'll be cool to see the kinds of economy designs. Like, I think the fundamentals we know are ownership and trade, and I just think to understand these opposing forces or reward systems and experiences that we get to develop out of these things, and how the psychology and the incentives kind of build for how users interface with these things and how their experiences get reflected. I'm really excited to see that, and I think there'll be lots of cool creative things that people come up with. So I think for me, it'll be like, obviously come and go through your design. It's like, oh, someone comes up with a brilliant design, be like, oh, I wish I thought of that. I'm sure there'll be a lot of discovery in the path, and also discovery and learning from people's behavior.
Awesome.
I have no idea. I think there's going to be two different kinds of surprises. So there's going to be the surprise for the people who are involved in the space. So for us, it feels really slow. We've been doing this for 2+ years now. I think for us, within 2 years, we're going to be really surprised at how rapidly this grows and how successful a lot of these companies become. It doesn't feel like that now. It feels like we're crawling along, like just inching to get more support. And I think that's going to come in tandem with the outside world realizing there's an opportunity here to play to earn, to actually make money, to actually own your things. That's going to be a surprise to the vast majority of people, because we are a niche within a niche, right? So for us, we're going to be surprised that it's blowing up and we're seeing success, and these big gaming companies are going to start acquiring us, and they're going to start asking us, how do we build on this? And then we're going to have the outside world coming in like, oh my God, this person just sold this thing that they earned in a game for $10,000. I have to go do that. Then you have a flood of people going to play the game. They're probably going to go play Skyweaver. It's an awesome game. I'm addicted to it, Peter, just so you know.
Thanks, buddy.
Awesome. Excellent. Well, look, we're up on our time. You guys are fantastic. I earned major mom credit with my sons when I told them that I was speaking with you guys today. So thank you for your awesome engagement and doing what you do. And have a good rest of your Ethereal. And we'll see you and meet again. Thanks again. Thanks, everyone.